Hello, folks. Spec here. Welcome to Film Spectacle, where I talk movies and politics, two of my favorite subjects, and I want to share that passion with all of you lovely folks. And I cannot think of a better first film to discuss on this channel than one of my all-time favorite movies, The Adventures of Robin Hood. So come along and let's get into it. The Adventures of Robin Hood was made in 1938, in the golden era of Hollywood. It was the same year as Disney's breakout Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and a year before The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. It stars Errol Flynn, Olivia de Havilland, also seen in Gone with the Wind, Basil Rathbone, and Claude Rains. Is directed by Michael Curtiz and William Keighley, has an epic score by Eric Wolfgang Korngold, which no joke, I get this stuck in my head all the time. And to this day, this film looks like a medieval tapestry come to life, thanks both to the wonders of Technicolor and the stunning costume design. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, please do. And considering it's super old and Robin Hood is a tale as old as time itself, there's going to be all the spoilers ahead, so enter at your own risk. Even though I'm an elder millennial born in the early 90s, I grew up watching a ton of older Hollywood movies with my dad. Jason and the Argonauts, The Seven Voyages of Sinbad, and The Adventures of Robin Hood were my go-tos, especially on a rainy or sick day when I was yearning for adventure. Something about this movie in particular has always stuck with me over the years. The romance, the swashbuckling, the green tights. I'm not sure what about it I like the most. I know it's easy to label Robin Hood, the man, the legend, as a vigilante of sorts, like a Bruce Wayne type. But unlike Bruce Wayne, who has all the money and resources at his fingertips, and the confidence to fight evil mostly alone, albeit some help, Robin, on the other hand, no, not that Robin. Robin Hood has no power, very little resources, and relies on movement building to accomplish his goals. Without his movement, Robin would be nothing more than a good archer, just as without Bruce Wayne's wealth and connections, he would just be some self-righteous guy who likes dressing like a bat. And Robin has all the earmarks of a revolutionary figure, charismatic, good at messaging and speech giving, and ultimately, he's willing to risk his life for the cause. This, of course, gets noticed by the establishment, as word of a man in green stealing from the rich to give to the poor quickly spreads across England. Those in power immediately label him a criminal, whereas the poor and oppressed call him a hero. And this happens time and again in the real world, from Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, to Che Guevara, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, and so on. Revolutionary figures fighting against oppression will always be labeled criminals by the establishment and its cronies. It's up to us, the people, to reject this premise entirely. Errol Flynn plays this role of charming action hero with a heart of gold so well, and the chemistry between him and de Havilland on screen is so good you can see why they starred in so many movies together. But it's the way this Robin Hood is written that stands out to me the most. He's a truth teller, even when it's to those in power who would love to see him dead. He's fierce with his convictions, loyal to his comrades, and can woo a woman Shakespearean style on her balcony. He's not bloodthirsty or revenge-driven either. He shows restraint when it matters, and picks up his sword and bow when it matters. And even when he finds himself in the company of the good King Richard, his tongue is as sharp as his sword. This version of Robin Hood truly is an ideal hero and revolutionary. Olivia de Havilland is by far my favorite actress to play our fair Maid Marian. There have been several takes on her character over the years, but I think this version truly captures her delicate strength and shows the role that privilege and class plays within the Robin Hood story and greater movement of wealth redistribution. When we meet Maid Marian, all she knows is the life of nobility, wealth, and her innermost social circle. She has all the faith in the system and truly believes that the people are taken care of by the king and lords. And why shouldn't she have faith? Her world has been in the tiny bubble of the 1%. The system is working for her and everyone around her, so naturally, it's working for everyone, right? And then her world is turned upside down. Her beloved King Richard is captured abroad, and the wicked King John takes the throne. Robin Hood, the revolutionary, is roaming around gathering a crew and striking fear into the rich, and Maid Marian eventually comes face to face with the criminal for the first time. Now, this is no meet-cute moment or anything, unless you're impressed by freshly killed venison being slammed onto the dinner table, fur intact. But with some charming banter, subtle glances, and a daring escape, Robin has already made quite the impression on Maid Marian. Still believing the worst about Robin Hood's intentions, Maid Marian is then confronted by the sight of her people beaten down, homeless, and struggling, and Robin and his men taking care of and providing for them. And it's here where Robin opens her eyes, and for the first time, she sees how little she knows of the world around her and the people within it. I absolutely love the moment on Marian's face and the way her character responds. She doesn't double down or make herself the center of attention. She doesn't get angry and storm off or let shame take over and become a victim. She takes in the new information and grows from it. This is a character-defining moment for her, and it sets up her entire trajectory going forward. Maid Marian represents privilege and how you choose to use it. You can either double down, ignore, and choose to maintain the status quo, or you can wield your privilege as a weapon in the people's movement. Maid Marian chooses the people. She chooses Robin, and ultimately, without her and the role she plays, the movement would have been defeated in the end. Class traitors like Maid Marian are vital to creating a successful movement, and those of us who come from privilege need to learn to embrace it for the good. We're conditioned to feel shame from our privilege, to reject it. But privilege is an asset, and Maid Marian realizes that. She sneaks out to deliver a crucial message to Robin's men. She lies and saves face to King John, and ultimately she saves Robin's life by telling the merry men about the plans to execute him. And she knows that even though the threat is there, that she could be killed, she knows her privilege is a shield that Robin and others in the movement don't have. Therefore, Maid Marian is a beautiful example of what it is to be a class traitor. One of the reasons why I love this version so much compared to other versions is because of the way movement building plays within the story. One of Robin's drives throughout the film is to recruit people to his cause, beyond class barriers, background, and different beliefs. We spend almost the first 20 minutes of the film with Robin and Will Scarlet coming upon strangers, offering them some food and a good time, and quickly gaining a sizable crowd. And yes, I wish there was more visual diversity like you would see in a real-world people's movement in modern day, but this was a 1938 production of Anglo-Saxon England. So, we see time and again throughout this film how because of the numbers, Robin Hood and the movement is able to win against the better armed establishment and save our hero and kill the bad guy in the end. And maybe part of why this 1938 film has the message of camaraderie so embedded into it is because of the Great Depression looming behind the scenes. Labor unions were actively fighting for rights, the New Deal was in effect, and Americans were hopeful for a better future after years of struggling, not knowing World War II was on the distant horizon. Robin Hood is only as strong as the movement he builds, and he knows it. Sure, he's more than capable with a sword and bow, but he could have never defeated King John alone. Strength in numbers demonstrated wonderfully. My one gripe about this film is how King Richard is handled. I understand why the studio and producers chose to do it this way, and I don't let it bother me too much, but I'm still going to talk about it for a moment. The framing is immediately established that we are dealing with a good King Richard and a wicked King John. It's literally spelled out for you. But here's the issue. King Richard originally leaves England to go off to fight in the Crusades when he is captured. Yes, our good King Richard is off killing black and brown people abroad in the name of religion and imperialism. Even Robin calls him out on it. King Richard's kingdom before John took over had wealth inequality among the classes too. King Richard and King John both represent the same system. Sure, he is better than King John. He certainly has a more chiseled jawline, goes by the cool nickname Lionheart, and has the good graces of Robin and Maid Marian. And the people of the kingdom lived in less fear when Richard was in power, for sure. But this, my dear viewers, is part of the spectacle, because there has to be a good king, right? Robin and Marian ride off into the sunset at the end, and the good king is back in power, and all can be right in the world again. The end, right? As much of a sucker as I am for a happy ending, I see this framing of good king versus bad king the same as Democrats versus Republicans or good cop versus bad cop. They all serve the same masters. They all serve the establishment, the status quo, capital. Our good king has peasants going hungry in his kingdom, and he abandons them to fight foreign wars. This framing of good versus bad king is the distraction meant to comfort you when the good side of the establishment wins. We're programmed deeply to crave good versus bad because it's comfortable and easy. If complicated things like politics can be broken down and simplified into two categories, good or bad, then that's just nice and easy. Just pick a side, cheer for it, and boo the other. So easy. Comfortable, safe, easy. And when it comes to making a good movie, a nice happy ending is wrapping everything in a neat bow by the end. It works. But that's not how life or politics works. It's time to wake up to the spectacle. And I think there's a lot more people waking up out there than you may think. This is why I wanted to start this channel. We are living in a vast 24-hour spectacle that is keeping us distracted, isolated, and hopeless so that a people's movement will never happen. We are in a constant state of drama and infighting because the powers that be want to keep us that way. Because if we, the people, come together, it's game over for them, and they know it. So even though I'm a little bitter about framing King Richard as the good guy, The Adventures of Robin Hood remains one of my favorite movies. The performances, the writing, the vibrancy of the color palette, the romance, the swashbuckling, and did I mention the music? It really is worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. Anyways, that's all I have for this one. Stay tuned for next time. Do 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 do.